Hail Virtual Mystics, and welcome back to Elder Futhark Rune Divination 101. Today we will be talking about the very first rune in the Elder Futhark, which is named Fehu. Fehu is the first rune in the first 8. One pronounces it as Fehu. So the first part would be like Fey as in Fey folk, as in fairies. The second part would be pronounced as the word who, like who did it. So Fehu. Fehu is associated with our modern day letter of the F, such as in the word faith or fate. So the associated gods with this rune are the twin god and goddess Frey and Freya. The associated astrological sign for Fehu is Aries. Now, why is this so? This is so because Aries is a fire sign, and Fehu, its power, its core is a very explosive, fiery kind of power. Basically, something that is often associated with the astrological sign of Aries. Now, I myself am not an Aries, but I am a Pisces born on the Aries cusp, so I can actually recognize some of the traits that Aries have within myself. So I know that I can be quite impulsive, for example. I know I can be quite stubborn. I know that I tend to get what I want when I want it, and I usually want it now, that sort of thing. Which in and of itself is not necessarily either bad or good, but it does definitely demonstrate, some of the inherent qualities of Fehu, because, its associated elements are both fire and earth. So when one thinks of Fehu, one thinks of cattle, because that is what it means. One thinks of wealth, because cattle, which is the original meaning of the rune Fehu, it was a form of wealth to the ancestors, to the old Germanic and Nordic tribes, because they used it to trade. If you had more cattle, you had more wealth because you had more to trade with. You had more to either share or reward somebody with, or give as a gift. You had more to, basically engage in all sorts of interactions with, where today we would use money, for example. And in that sense, Fehu can also be associated in modern times with actual mobile wealth, such as, money, for example. It can mean possessions. Fehu is oftentimes associated with physical health, mental wealth, spiritual wealth, even wealth in love and relationships, in sexual wealth, sexual energy. It is a very creative rune, and in that sense, we definitely see the influence of the gods Frey and Freya, who are both fertility gods. Whereas Frey is the masculine and Freya is the feminine. So basically, Fehu is abundance in all its forms, pretty much. It is wealth in all aspects of your life. Now, however, there is not just a selfish aspect in the rune of Fehu, in the sense that when one has certain types of wealth, such as monetary or good health, that sort of thing, when one does not spend money, what good is money? Because you can gather as much money as you want, but if you don't actually do anything with the money, it will just be a piece of paper or a piece of plastic, if you're talking about online digital wealth. such as with a credit card, for example. So if you don't actually spend it, what will end up happening is it will blow up in your face. And this is another aspect of Fehu. The wealth of Fehu, because it represents mobile wealth, it needs to be shared. It needs to be, it needs to be freely given to others as they would give it to you. Because if you do not, such wealth can actually bring resentment, and it can actually bring a lot of unhappiness in your life, not just for you, but for those around you as well. So, for example, when you take a lot of sexual energy as an example, imagine you have a lot of sexual drive. Now, if you do not end up sharing in a relationship, for example, what happens is that you will end up having it eating you from the inside out. The same, like I said, is true for monetary matters. The same is true for your health. If you are in good health and you do not actively use your good health to do things in your life, you're just going to sit in a chair or lay in bed all day. Soon that physical health that you have will actually turn on you, because it will eventually deteriorate to such a state that you will no longer be able to do the things that you could have done with said physical health. What good is love if you don't share it with somebody? What good is sexual energy if you don't share it with somebody? What good is wealth if you don't buy things with it that you need, or for your family or your friends or whatever? So these are all things that are represented in the rune Fehu. That is something that you want to keep in mind when you are going to be doing your divinations with it. When it shows up in its different facets, whether it be upright, converse, or reverse. It is something that can mean a variety of things in a wide variety of circumstances. It depends very much on the person asking you about certain things, what kind of question they're asking, what kind of person they are, and if they are inquiring about another person, how does it apply to this person? What does your intuition tell you? The runes in and of itself, in and of themselves, are very intuitive. These are symbols that represent, once again, as I said in previous videos, the creative and destructive forces of the universe. And indeed, every single rune can be used for creative and or destructive purposes. It can be interpreted as both. Basically that is a short, concise description of what the rune Fehu can represent, does represent. So we now come to the part where we're going to be discussing Fehu divination. This part will consist of 3 parts. What I will be doing first is discuss the meaning of the rune, in this case Fehu, when it is pulled or when it falls, or whichever method you use, when it shows up upright. The second will be about the converse, and the third will be about the reverse. This is a rune that has 3 or possibly more if you read it anywhere between all these angles, meanings. Let's start with Fehu upright. One can think of Fehu upright in the context of a divination as a very, very positive rune, actually. Because, as I mentioned previously in the last part, in the last segment. It tends to mean wealth of all kinds. It tends to mean the gaining and possessing of said wealth in whatever context. Now again, the meaning of the rune Fehu depends on the person asking, the person being asked about, and or the question, the query posed to you as a reader. It is again up to your intuition how one is going to be interpreting it, but one can assume that when one does a 6 rune cast, for example, and one asks about will I get a promotion for my job, one can assume that if this rune falls upright in, for example, the future, the rune for the future, that it means that there is likely going to be a form of either a promotion or a raise or whatever, something like that. It basically means achieving or already owning, having achieved the goals that you have in mind, that you have set for yourself. So it can mean a wide variety of things that once again depend on you as the reader. It depends on what your intuition tells you, and it depends on the kind of question that is asked of you. Fehu can also, that said, represent energy. It can represent your enthusiasm. It can represent your attitude to whatever it is that you're inquiring about. For example, if you are dealing with some problems in your love life, for example, and this rune shows up as a challenge rune, and it shows upright. The runes are basically telling you that in order for you to successfully get through this trouble in your love life, by having more enthusiasm, more of a positive outlook, putting more positive creative energy into your into your relationship. It can mean, for example, that you may need to pay more attention to your spouse in terms of romance, or perhaps even sexually, so it can mean a lot of things. But the context of an upright Fehu is always positive. It is always about gaining or already possessing something good, something that is fulfilling in a certain way, in a certain aspect of your life. Speaking on a more spiritual level, because Fehu is often involved with the material, with physical. On a more philosophical note, on a more spiritual note, Fehu also involves your spiritual power, which is something that we definitely should not leave out of a divination like this, or a description of divinations like this. Because I have had it show up for myself when I was asking about my practices as a shaman, as a reader, as everything related to my spiritual existence. So when it shows up in upright, think of it as either an encouragement or a confirmation for you to either move forward on the path that you are considering taking, or to already stay on the path that you are on, because you are going to be receiving or are already receiving fulfillment of your spiritual self. If you want to get even deeper into this, it can even represent your own spiritual awakening. It is, also representing the fact that we, as not only as individuals but also as a collective, as a species, and even beyond that, how we as a species are connected to all other life forms with which we coexist on this planet. Because if one thinks about it, wealth, we have so much wealth here on our little blue planet, and right now we are just squandering it, we are polluting it, we are spoiling it. Our actions are actually more destructive instead of creative. And in the end, if we keep going like this with the pollution, how we treat our Mother Earth and Father Sky, because pollution affects both the Earth and the sky itself. So, in the end, we will be ruining ourselves. We will be taking away our own wealth through our greed. And this ties back into what I said earlier about the runes being about Fehu, the rune Fehu, being about wealth and needing to share it. When we as a species, as the dominant species on this planet currently, are going to be so greedy that we keep all the wealth for ourselves, when we tap the fossil fuels, when we tap the resources, when we destroy the ozone, when we destroy the environment, pollute the air, pollute the earth, we are going to be reaping the seeds that we sow, in a metaphorical sense, but even in a literal sense. Just look at all the genetically modified foods that are out there. It turns out that they're not healthy for us in any way, really. So, all the pesticides and all the other stuff with which we are polluting ourselves, it is detrimental not only to us as individuals, our individual physical health, and also our mental health. As a result of that, or perhaps even at the root of it all, is our spiritual wealth. Because if we were truly spiritual beings, if we were truly in touch with the universe, all that is, the gods, we would not be acting like this. Because if we were aware of what we were doing, how our actions affected others, we would be treating the earth that gave birth to us as a species, we would be treating her so much better than that we are currently doing. So in this sense, one can also interpret Fehu as a spiritual awakening, and when it is upright, one can interpret Fehu as a very positive spiritual, in the sense that we are willing to share of our own inner happiness, our own inner selflessness with others. And everything is a chain reaction. We are all connected in the sense that every action that we take, it affects another individual, and every little ripple, every little stone we cast, in the pond of reality, in the pond of life, it affects everything in some way, shape, or form. Because if you treat somebody else good, if you treat them the way you would want to be treated, which is a very common concept, a very common theme in many religions, treat others like you want to be treated yourself. If you of course wish to be treated properly yourself, you want to be treated correctly, you want to be treated fairly, justly, you want to be treated with love. Everybody does, obviously. So, if you don't actually share that outlook, if you don't actually share those energies, that experience with somebody else, you're going to send negative ripples out, and eventually that is going to escalate, because this person learns from you that somebody else is not trustworthy, and in turn this other person starts acting very suspiciously of somebody else, and that other person starts getting affected by how that person reacts, and so on and so forth. So, at the end of the day, what we are seeing right now, it is, if you want to look at it very basically, it is just a lack of spiritual awareness, of how our actions affect every single thing that we touch, and how even the things that we personally don't touch, but that the person that we touched affects. So this is something that you can meditate on, or think about when you think of the rune Fehu. So the lesson in upright Fehu is that we should always be very bountiful with the wealth that we ourselves already have, or that we seek to gain. Because if we seek to gain something, I've mentioned before that the principle of the runes is oftentimes a gift for a gift. So if you wish to gain happiness, you must put out happiness, you must put out positivity, because negativity will only be rewarded with negativity, and positivity will only be rewarded with positivity. So one of the ways that Fehu can show up in upright position is, for example, if you are inquiring about your love life, and this rune would fall upright either in the outcome or the future. You know, when you are talking about your relationship and you are inquiring, you know, what we have certain issues going on right now, and what will be the outcome? What are some of the challenges that we are going to be facing, and how do we handle this? Now, say that Fehu upright falls in your future or in your outcome. If you continue on your current path, if you continue to you know, work on the relationship the way you have been doing, and you work together to overcome these trials that you've been having. You know, if this rune shows up in the future or the outcome, for example, it is a very positive, good sign, because it means that much wealth, much love, you know, fulfillment can be found once you have worked through all the issues and problems that you are currently facing. Okay, so we come to the next part, which is Fehu Converse. Now, what does it mean when this rune falls Converse? It tends to mean that the wealth that this rune normally symbolizes in whatever context is being inquired about, that it is available to you, it is out there, it is in some ways just within reach, but it is either withheld from you, whether that be intentionally or unintentionally. It can be, it can mean that it is hidden, you know, that it might be right in front of you, but you may not be able to see it for whatever reason, because either your vision is clouded, or because your mind is, in a way, you know, playing tricks on you. Or maybe you are consciously making an effort to tell yourself that perhaps you don't deserve it, that perhaps you, excuse me, I have a little bit of throat issue going on due to hay fever, so excuse me if I sound a bit raspy, but, or raspy, or you know, whatever it is called. But basically, so Fehu Converse quite simply means that the wealth that is technically available to you is either being hidden, again, intentionally or unintentionally, or it can simply mean that you are not willing or even able to see it for whatever reason. It might mean also in the context of you know, jobs or perhaps a love life, that you may need to simply work for it a little bit more. Because it is available to you, but you are not yet at this point quite willing to put in the effort for it. And so this rune can also be interpreted as a little, like a little nudge for you to step your game up and to just do the things that you most likely already know are required of you in order for you to gain what it is that you actually want. You know, if we are going to go back to that whole spiritual example of Fehu upright, but now we take it in a Converse context, we could be interpreting this as that we as a species and as individuals, of course, we have so much potential. You know, we are very, we have a lot to gain, we have a lot to lose also. We have a lot of power in our grasp, and I use the word power loosely in the terms of spiritually, technologically, environmentally. Because as the dominant species here on this planet, we should be taking care of this planet, and we have the capability and the drive to do these things. But like I said, greed is kind of running rampant right now. We are, as a species as a whole, not perhaps you as an individual. That does not mean that we as a species are currently tapping into our full potential. We do not have the drive as a species as a whole to say, okay, we need to turn around what we are doing, not only to ourselves, but also to everything else that is depending on us for us to take care of the planet that we live on whether we will be experiencing a spiritual awakening en masse. Because, of course, every single awakening, every single revolution, it starts with every single individual that decides that it is time for a change. But as long as the majority of human beings on this planet are not quite yet so consciously aware that every action has a reaction, and that a gift always requires a gift, no matter if that gift is positive or negative, we are going to be receiving exactly what we put in, and that is, again, something that I really want to, stress, not stretch. I want to really stress that with this rune, because it is the rune of wealth, and all the wealth that you desire is also something that you need to give back for. So Fehu Converse means that we have the potential, you as an individual, me as an individual, but also all of us, humanity, as a collective, as a species, to gain more spiritual awareness, more spiritual power, and as a result also treat the planet that gave birth to us better. So because it is, again, as I said, all connected, because we would not be carrying out certain actions as a species if we were spiritually awakened, if we were spiritually aware. Now, a lot of people often say that it is actually shifting, and I do believe that. But we do need to realize that there is going to be a point of no return, and this is just something that we all need to keep in mind. So, spiritually speaking, Fehu Converse can be interpreted as we have the potential, but we need to work hard to achieve that spiritual potential. So, to give you an example, of how one can be reading this rune in Converse. I had it show up in a reading quite recently. I did this reading for somebody in relation to some monetary issues that they were having. Now, this person actually contacted a specialist in this department, and she was basically inquiring to him about the situation that was going on. And she came to me. She was asking about how much money will I get for this, and I'm like, okay, well, let me ask the runes what they have to say. And eventually it came to the point where Converse Fehu fell in conjunction with a Converse Manas, which tends to mean the Converse Manas, that is, that a person being referred to is either dishonest or covert. Because yes, the runes are very blunt in their description sometimes of what is going on, because they can tell you whether somebody is being dishonest, whether somebody is cheating, whether somebody is having some emotional troubles, etc., etc. So the runes they gave me the answer of the person being referred to, and not my client, but the person that she was talking about. the specialist in this case, this person was being dishonest with her. So what I advise her to do is to, check her papers and all the agreements that she made with this person, and perhaps have a third neutral party look at them to gain what it is that was actually technically rightfully hers, because it was being, in this case, actually consciously, dishonestly withheld from you, from her. So, when Fehu shows up in a reverse position, when one is doing divination with the runes, it tends to mean that, as someone might expect, that there will be a loss of wealth, that one has a reduction in wealth in whatever form, whether it be monetary, whether it be in love, whether it be in sexual fulfillment. Whether it be in your health, anything related to all the things that we have discussed earlier in this video. So it can also mean a loss of enthusiasm. It can mean a loss of energy. It can mean a loss of or a decrease in mental, emotional, spiritual health and wealth. Because of stress, for example, because of certain things not exactly going the way you want. And, in this we again see the lesson of, how strong is your spirituality, because all change, it starts within. So if you lose all the motivation that you have, which is another interpretation that Fehu can have, motivation, energy, enthusiasm, that sort of thing. If you lose that, then everything on the outside will fall apart, because your inner world is no longer in sync. It no longer has that, that drive, that motivation to get what you want. And again, what you put out is also what comes back in. So, basically that is quite simply put what Fehu in reverse means. It can also mean, bad luck. It can mean unrequited love, for example. On a more spiritual level, back to that. We are actually currently, as I stated earlier, doing a very good job as a collective species to pull a reverse Fehu on ourselves, because of our greed, because of our intolerance, because of our inability to share what we have with, whether it be other human beings or whether it be with, whether it be with other species that are sharing this planet with us, or even the planet itself, because of all the things that I mentioned earlier, the poisoning, the pollution, the genetic engineering, geoengineering that we're doing, whether it be with crops or with the air, or whatever. So it is very important that we change this around, and this change obviously starts with you as an individual, because once again, every action that you take has a reaction, a gift for a gift. So, it is very important that we turn this around, and we are on a certain level, to a certain degree, already doing this, which is great to see. We definitely need to step our game up in this aspect, in this sense. So what is an example of how one can have a reverse Fehu show up in one of their readings? Well, recently I had this rune show up for myself. It was in the challenge slot, I believe, over something I was feeling rather angry about. it showed up in combination with a Converse Urus rune, which is the rune we will be discussing after this one. And basically what this combination was saying, the Urus meant that there was a hidden strength that I have within me that needed to be tapped into. And in this case, it was for me patience, you know, because somebody had did something to me that I was very upset about, and I was very angry about, and you know, also very disappointed with, which is fortunately no longer the case because I followed the advice of the runes. But you know, I wanted a quick fix. I wanted answers right now. I just wanted things to be clear, and I wanted things to happen right away in my own timing and not wait for the divine to line up certain things, you know. So basically for me, in this challenge of reverse Fehu was my own inner self, my own inner wealth, my own inner you know, my own inner motivation, my enthusiasm in dealing with this situation, my own outlook on it, my own energy that I was putting into it. I was actually disempowering myself, taking away my own energy, taking away my own health by being so angry about it, by being so upset, by being sad about it, you know. So that was my lesson here, to have patience, to just let things work themselves out. And you know, so I have since adjusted that mindset, and I must say that I feel a lot better because I was wasting my energy on this, and it didn't get me anywhere. Because you know, you can't force somebody else to react a certain way, or to tell you certain things, or you know, to treat you a certain way. So yeah, that's basically how one can expect reverse Fehu to show up. You know, one of the ways that is. So yeah, I think this concludes the video on Fehu. And next up we will be discussing the second rune in the Elder Futhark, which is Urus, the rune of strength. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you actually learned something from it, obviously, because that's what this is about. That said, there are, you know, always more ways to interpret a specific rune than you know, the things that I'm sharing with you here. The runes are not something that you can just like learn the meaning of and then apply them, you know, because their meanings are so much greater than just the meanings that they can have in a divination, and even within the context of divinations, they can mean so much more than just the basics, which I have talked about right here. So yeah, you know, it's important, like I said, to always use your intuition on what the runes mean in a certain reading, within a certain context, of a certain question relating to the specific individual that you are reading for, whether it be yourself, whether it be you know, anybody else that you're reading for. So yeah, I think that concludes the video on Fehu.